4 ngày tháng 5 2024. Này là thứ nhỏ xíu đi. Đây là thứ 6. Cuối tuần rồi, ngày mai là cuối tuần rồi. Thì mình sẽ vào clip này luôn nhá. Bởi vì là clip này khá là dài và clip này là mình định xem từ cuối tuần trước rồi. Để xem nào. Clip này đã up 8 ngày trước, nhưng mà 8 ngày trước thì mình đang ở trên Đà Lạt, cho nên là mình đã để dành để xem. Clip hôm nay thì là clip của Lex Fridman. Thì cách đây khoảng 4 tuần thì Lex có quyết định là dừng làm podcast để đi vào rừng Amazon. Thì tất nhiên là rừng Amazon thì nó cũng ở cái ở cái vị trí của Lex thì nó không có gì có quá là ghê gớm cả, nhưng mà cái việc mà cái địa điểm cuối cùng mà Lex đến ấy là một cái nơi rất là sâu ở trong rừng Amazon mà rất là hiếm người có thể đến được. Và mình cứ nghĩ là về xong sẽ có một cái câu chuyện gì đấy, hoặc là sẽ clip gì đấy quay lại cái quá trình mà đi ở trong rừng Amazon luôn. Nhưng mà không ngờ là tháng ngày trước mình khá là bất ngờ khi mà mình thấy là Lex up một cái clip podcast ở trong rừng luôn. Chất lượng âm thanh thì vẫn là y chang như là ở trong studio, vẫn là những cái bộ mic, những cái thiết bị đấy, nhưng mà có một cái là cái cam. Mình nghĩ là có mang cam xịn đấy, nhưng mà vì một lý do nào đấy nó kiểu bị ẩm ấy, hay là nhờ đó, cho nên nó hơi bị kiểu bị đây này, bị lóa này. Rồi, ok, bây giờ sẽ bắt đầu. Trước tiên mình sẽ tắt nhạc đi này. Clip này sẽ dài 4 tiếng và mình chắc là sẽ xem khoảng hơn 2 buổi, 3 buổi đấy. Nên là hôm nay mục tiêu là sẽ xem khoảng tiếng rưỡi đi. Tiếng rưỡi là đến đây là 1 tiếng 43 phút này. Rồi, đúng 1 tiếng rưỡi đi. Sau khi xem hết cái Piranha này đi.
No, Paul. Lex, we are in the middle of nowhere. It's the Amazon jungle. There's vegetation, there's insects, there's all kinds of creatures. A million heartbeats, a million eyes. So, really, where are we right now?
We are in Peru, in a very remote part of the western Amazon basin, and because of the proximity of the Andean cloud forest to the lowland tropical rainforest, we are in the most biodiverse part of planet Earth. There's more life per square acre, per square mile out here than there is anywhere else on Earth, not just now, but in the entire fossil record.
The following is a conversation with Paul Rosolie, his second time on the podcast. But this time, we did the conversation deep in the Amazon jungle. I traveled there to hang out with Paul, and it turned out to be an adventure of a lifetime. I will post a video capturing some aspects of that adventure in a week or so. It included everything from getting lost in dense, unexplored wilderness with no contact to the outside world to taking very high doses of ayahuasca, and much more. Paul, by the way, aside from being my good friend, is a naturalist, explorer, author, and is someone who has dedicated his life to protecting the rainforest. For this mission, he founded Jungle Keepers. You can help him if you go to junglekeepers.org. This trip, for me, was life-changing. It expanded my understanding of myself and of the beautiful world I'm fortunate to exist in with all of you. So, I'm glad I went, and
Phụ đề tiếng Việt nó kỳ vậy.
I'm glad I made it out alive. This is the Lex Fridman podcast. To support it, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, dear friends, here's Paul Rosolie. I can't believe we're actually here.
I can't believe you actually came.
And I can't believe you forced me to wear a suit.
That was the people's choice, trust me.
All right. We've been through quite a lot over the last few days.
we've been through a bit.
Let me ask you a ridiculous question. What are all the creatures right now, if they wanted to, could cause us harm?
The thing is, the Amazon rainforest has been described as the greatest natural battlefield on Earth because there's more life here than anywhere else, which means that everything here is fighting for survival. The trees are fighting for sunlight. The animals are fighting for prey. Everybody's fighting for survival. And so everything that you see.
Mình rất là thích cái góc nhìn kiểu như này, đó là khi mà cái anh này vừa nói đến cái việc là tất cả những cái thứ ở đây nó đang giành chiến đấu để giành được sự sống, thì mình trong đầu mình ấy, mình bị bó buộc với việc là những con vật, những con động vật, rồi những con sinh vật, hoặc là những con insect, là những con côn trùng. Nhưng mà cái cách nhìn của anh này rất là rộng. Anh ấy nói đến cái việc là những cái cây nữa, những cây nó cũng kiểu vươn lên, những cái thực vật nó cũng vươn lên nữa, thì nó là một cái góc nhìn như nào nhỉ, nó không bị assumption từ trước, bị bó hẹp ấy, mà rất là rộng luôn.
See here, everything around us will be killed, eaten, digested, recycled at some point. The jungle is really just a giant churning machine of death, and life is kind of this moment of stasis where you maintain this collection of cells in a particular DNA sequence, and then it gets digested again and recycled back and renamed into everything. And so the things in this forest, while they don't want to hurt us, there are things that are heavily defended because, for instance, a giant anteater needs claws to fight off a jaguar. A stingray needs a stinger on its tail, which is basically a serrated knife with venom on it to deter anything that would hunt that stingray. Even the catfish have pectoral fins that have razor long, steak knife-sized defense systems. Then you have, of course, the jaguars, the harpy eagles, the piranha, the candiru fish that can swim up a penis, lodge themselves inside. It's the Amazon rainforest. The thing is, as you've learned this week, nothing here wants to get us, with the exception of maybe mosquitoes. Every other animal just wants to eat and exist in peace.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
But there is, each of those animals, like you described, have a kind of radius of defense.
Yeah.
So if you accidentally step into its home, into that radius, it can cause harm.
Or make them feel threatened.
There is a defense mechanism that is activated.
Some incredible defense mechanisms. I mean, you're talking about 17-foot black caiman, crocodiles that with significant size that could rip you in half, anacondas, the largest snake on Earth, bushmasters that can grow up to be 9 to I think even 11 feet long. And I've caught bushmasters that are thicker than my arms.
So for people who don't know, bushmaster snakes, what are these things?
These are vipers. I believe it's the largest viper on Earth.
Venomous.
Extremely venomous with hinged teeth, tissue-destroying venom. Like if you get bitten by a bushmaster, they say you don't rush and try and save your own life. You try to savor what's around you. Look around at the world. Smoke your last cigarette. Call your mom. That's it.
So that moment of stasis that is life is going to end abruptly when you interact with one of those.
Yeah. I even have this seemingly...
Can I just pause at how incredibly beautiful it is that you could just reach to your right and grab a piece of the jungle?
It's like even this seemingly beautiful little fern. If you go this way on the fern, you're fine. As soon as you go this way, there's invisible little spikes on there if you want to.
Oh, I see. I feel
see that? So like everything is defended. If you're driving on the road and you have your arm out the side, or if you're on a motorcycle going through the jungle and you get one of these, it'll just tear all the skin right off your body. It's kind of doing that to me now.
So what would you do? Like we're going through the dense jungle yesterday and you slide down the hill, your foot slips, you're sliding down, and then you find yourself staring a couple feet away from a bushmaster snake. What are you doing? You're, for people who somehow don't know, or somebody who admires snakes, who has met thousands of snakes, has worked with them, respects them, celebrates them. What would you do with a bushmaster snake? Face to face.
Face to face. This has happened. I've been there.
It's nice.
I've come face to face with a bushmaster, and there's two reactions that you might get. One is if the bushmaster decides that it's vacation time, if it's sleeping, if he just had a meal, they'll come to the edges of trails or beneath a tree and they'll just circle up, big pile of snake on the trail, and they'll just sit there. And one time there was a snake sitting on the side of a trail beneath a tree for 2 weeks. This snake was just sitting there, resting, digesting his food out in the open, in the rain, in the sun, in the night. Didn't matter. You go near it, barely even crack a tongue. Now, the other option is that you get a bushmaster that's alert and hunting and out looking for something to eat, and they're ready to defend themselves. And so I once came across a bushmaster in the jungle at night, and this bushmaster turned its head towards me, looked at me, and made it very clear, I'm going to go this way. And so I did the natural thing that any snake enthusiast would do, and I grabbed its tail. Now, 11 feet later, by the head, the snake turned around and just said, if you want to meet God, I can arrange the meeting. I will oblige. And I decided to let the bushmaster go.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like that with most animals. You know, a jaguar will turn and look at you and just remind you of how small you are.
Like, what did you
Keep
see
going.
in the snake's eyes? How did you sense that this is going to be your end if you proceed?
His readiness. I wanted to get him by the tail and show him to the people that were there and maybe work with the snake a little bit. As an 11-foot snake, the snake turned around and made it very clear, like, not today, pal. It's not going to happen.
Is it in the eyes and the movement and the tension
It was
of the
the
body?
movement. It was the movement and the S of the neck. It was as if you pushed me and I went, let's go, make my day.
Yeah.
Like he just looked a little bit too ready. He's like, I love this.
Okay. All right. So you know.
You just know. Whereas like the snake you met last night,
Yeah. Beautiful snake.
such a calm little thing. He just focuses on eating baby lizards and little snails and things. And that snake has no concept of defending itself. It has no way to defend itself. So even something the size of a blue jay could just come and just peck that thing in the head and swallow it. And it's a helpless little snake. So it's really, it kind of depends on the animal. It depends on the mood you catch them in. Each one has a different temperament.
The grace of its movement was mesmerizing. Curious almost. Maybe I'm anthropomorphizing, projecting onto it. But it was...
The tongue flicking was a sign of curiosity. He was trying to figure out what was going on. It was like, why am I on this treadmill of human skin? You know, they're just trying to get to the next thing, trying to get hidden, trying to get away from the light.
Also, the texture of the scales is really fascinating. I mean, it's the first snake I've ever touched. It's so interesting. It was just such an incredible system of muscles that are all interacting together to make that kind of movement work, and all the texture of its skin, of its scales. What do you love about snakes? From my first experience with a snake to all the thousands of experiences you had with snakes, what do you love about these creatures?
I think it's when you just spoke about it, that's the first snake you've met, and it was a tiny little snake in the jungle, and you spoke about it with so much light in your eyes. And I think that because we've been programmed to be scared of snakes, there's something wondrous that happens in our brain. Maybe it's just this joy of discovery that there's nothing to be scared of. And whether it's a rattlesnake that is dangerous and that you need to give distance to, but you look at it from a distance and you go, whoa, or it's a harmless little grass snake that you can pick up and enjoy and give to a child. They're just these strange legless animals that just exist. You know, they don't even have eyelids. They're so different than us. They have a tongue that senses the air, and they, to me, are so beautiful. And I've my whole life been defending snakes from humans, and they seem misunderstood. I think they're incredibly beautiful. There's every color and variety of snakes. There's venomous snakes, there's tree snakes, there's huge crushing anacondas. It's just, of the 2,600 species of snakes that exist on Earth, there's just such beauty, such complexity, and such simplicity. They're just to me I feel like I'm friend with snake, and they rely on me to protect them from my people.
Friend with snake.
Me friend snake.
Me friend snake. You said some of them are sometimes aggressive, some of them are peaceful. Is this a mood thing, a personality thing, a species thing? What is it?
So as far as I know, there's only really 2 snakes on Earth that could be aggressive, because aggression indicates offense.
Mm-hmm.
And so a reticulated python has been documented as eating humans. Anacondas, although while it hasn't been publicized, they have eaten humans. Every single other snake, from boa constrictor to bushmasters to spitting cobra to grass snake to garter snake to everything else, every single other snake does not want to interact with you.
Mm-hmm.
They have no interest. So there's no such thing as an aggressive snake once you get outside of anaconda and reticulated python. Aggression could be trying to eat you. That's predation. But for every other snake, a rattlesnake, if it was there, would either go escape and hide itself, or it would rattle its tail and tell us, don't come closer. A cobra will hood up and begin to hiss and say, "Don't approach me. I'm asking you nicely not to mess with me." And most other snakes are fast, or they stay in the trees, or they're extremely camouflaged. But their whole MO is just, don't bother me. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be messed with. In fact, all I want to do is be left alone. And once in a while, I just want to eat. And by the way, when you see a snake drink, your heart will break. It's like it's the only thing that's cuter than a puppy. Like watching a snake touch its mouth to water, and you just see that little mouth going as they suck water in, and it's like it's just so adorable watching this scaled animal just be like, I need water.
In a state of vulnerability.
Yeah.
But bro, there's nothing cuter than a little puppy with a tongue like
a baby ball python.
All right.
Baby king cobra, man.
What's it take your word?
Baby elephant.
So what are they're like at a puddle and they just take it in?
They can be at a puddle and they just take it in. Or one time in India, I was with a snake rescuer and we found this 9-foot king cobra, this god of a snake. They're Ophiophagus hanna is their Latin name, and they're snake eaters. They're the king of the snakes, the largest venomous snake. And the people that called this snake rescuer, because that's a profession in India, it had gotten into their kitchen or their backyard, and so we showed up and we got the snake, and the snake rescuer, he looked at the snake and he went to me, he said, why do you think this snake would go in a house? And he was quizzing me, and I actually went, I don't know. Is it warm? Is it cold? Like sometimes cats like to go into the warm cars in the winter. And he was like, he's thirsty. He goes, watch this. He took a water bottle, poured it over. Now the snake is standing up. The snake stands up 3 feet tall. This is a huge king cobra with a hood, terrifying snake to be around. He leans over to the snake, and the snake is standing there trusting him. And he takes a water bottle and pours it onto the snake's nose. And the snake turns up its nose and just starts drinking from the water bottle. Human giving water to snake. Big, scary snake. But this human understood. Snake gets water. Snake gets released in jungle. Everybody's okay.
So sometimes the needs are simple. They just don't have the words to communicate them to us humans.
Yeah.
And is it disinterest or is it fear? Almost like they don't notice us, or is it where source, the unknown aspect of it, the uncertainty is a source of danger?
Well, animals live in a constant state of danger. Like if you look at that deer that we saw last night, it's stalking through the jungle, wondering what's going to eat it, wondering if this is the last moment it's going to be alive. It's like the animals are constantly terrified of that this is their last moment.
Yeah, just for the listener, we're walking through the jungle late at night, so it's darkness except our headlamps on, and then all of a sudden Paul stops. He's like, shh, and he looks in the distance. He sees 2 eyes. I think you thought, is that a jaguar or is it a deer? And it was moving its head like this, like scared, or maybe trying to localize itself, trying to figure
Trying
out.
to see around.
You're doing the same to it.
Yeah.
the two of you like moving your head, and like deep into the jungle. Like I don't know. It's pretty far away through the trees. You can still see it.
30 feet or so. Yeah.
That's the thing to actually mention. I mean, with the headlamp, you see the reflection in their eyes. It's kind of incredible. Just to see a creature, to try to identify a creature by just the reflection from its eyes.
Yeah, and so the cats, sometimes you'll get like a greenish or a bluish glow from the cats. The deer are usually white to orange, caiman, orange, nightjars, orange. Snakes can usually be like orange moths, spiders sparkle. And so you have all these different, as you walk through the jungle, you can see all these different eyes. And when something large looks at you, like that deer did, your first thing is, what animal is this that I am staring back at? Because through the light, you kind of you see the reflection off the bright light off the leaves. And I couldn't tell at first because that actually, those big bright eyes, it could have been an ocelot, could have been a jaguar, could have been a deer. And then when it did this movement, that's what the cats do. They try to see around your light. I thought maybe Lex Fridman's here. We're going to get lucky. It's going to be a jag right off trail.
Your definition of lucky is a complicated one.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating process when you see those 2 eyes trying to figure out what it is, and it is trying to figure out what you are, that process. Let's talk about caiman. We've seen a lot of different kinds of sizes. We've seen a baby one, a bigger one. Tell me about these 16-foot plus apex predators of the Amazon rainforest.
The big bad black caiman, which is the largest reptilian predator in the Amazon except for the anaconda. They kind of both share that notch of apex predator. They were actually hunted to endangered species level in the 70s because they're leather, black scale leather. But they're coming back. They're coming back, and they're huge and they're beautiful. And I was walking near a lake, and I never understood how big they could get, except for I was walking near a lake last year, and I was following this stream. You know what it's like when you're following a little stream and there's just a little trickle of water, and all of a sudden this river otter had been running the other direction on the stream. River otter comes up to me, and I swear to God, this animal looked at me and went, "Hey," and I went, "Hey." And he like didn't expect to see me there. And he turned around, he like did a little spin, started running down the stream. Then he turned around, and you could tell he was like, "Let's go." And I'm not anthropomorphizing here. The animal was asking me to come with him. So I followed the river otter down the stream. We started running down the stream, and the river otter looks at me one more time, is like, "Yo," jumps into the lake. And I'm like, what does he want me to see? Now in the lake, there's river otters doing dives and freaking out and going up and down and up and down. And they're very excited. They're screaming, they're screeching. All of a sudden, and I've never seen anything like this except for in like Game of Thrones, this crockhead comes flying out of the water. All of the river otters were attacking this huge black caiman, 16 feet, head half the size of this table. And
Caiman là con gì?
this huge black caiman flying out of the
The crockhead come fly out of water. Đâu có là xấu.
water. All of the river otters
Otter.
were attacking this huge black caiman, 16 feet, head half the size of this table. And she was thrashing her tail around, creating these huge waves in the water, trying to catch an otter. And they're so fast that they were zipping around or biting her and then going around. And this otter, swear to God, interspecies, looked at me and went, "Watch this. We're fucking with this caiman." It was amazing. And for the first time, I got to stand there watching. We're fucking with this caiman.
Caiman. Caiman. Caiman là con gì? Versus Longer Shepherd Tea. Này, rất là cá sấu đúng không?
It was amazing. And for the first time, I got to stand there watching this incredible interspecies fight happening. They weren't trying to kill the caiman. They were just trying to mess with it. And the caiman was doing his best to try and kill these otters. And they were just having a good time in that sick sort of hyper-intelligent animal, like wolf sort of way, where they were just going, "You can't catch us."
Yeah, like intelligence and agility versus like raw power and dominance. I mean, I got to handle some smaller caiman, and just the power they had, you scale that up to imagine what a 16-foot, even a 10-foot, any kind of black caiman, the kind of power they deliver. Maybe can you talk to that, like the power they can generate with their tail, with their neck, with their jaw?
Yeah. Alligators and caiman and crocodiles have some of the strongest bite forces on Earth. I think a saltwater crocodile wins as the strongest bite force on Earth. And you got to hold about a 4-foot spectacle caiman. And you got to feel, I mean, you're a black belt in jiu-jitsu. How do you compare the explosive force you felt from that animal compared to what a human can generate?
It's difficult to describe in words. There's a lot of power, and we're talking about the power of the neck, like what is it? I mean, there's a lot. It can generate power all up and down the body. So probably the tail is a monster, but just the neck, and not to mention the power of the bite, that, and the speed too. Because the thing I saw and got to experience is how still and calm, at least from my amateur perspective, it seems calm. Still, and then from that sort of 0 to 60, you could just go wild,
just thrashing.
And then there's also a decision it makes in that split second whether, as it thrashes, is it going to kind of bite you on the way or not?
And that's where of the 4 species of caiman that we have here, you see differences in their personalities as a species. And so you can generally golden retrievers are viewed as a friendly dog. Generally, not every single one of them, but as a rule. Spectacle caiman, puppies. You released one in the river and it did nothing. Didn't bite one of your fingers. It just swam away. We dropped one in the river, and what did it do? It chose peace. Now, I had a smooth-fronted caiman a few weeks ago, and this was probably about a 3.5-footer, not big enough to kill you, but very much big enough to grab one of your fingers and just shake it off your body, just death roll it right off. And as I was being careful, totally different caiman than the one that you got to see. This one has spikes coming off it. They're like leftover dinosaurs. It's like they evolved during the dinosaur times and never changed. They have spikes and bony plates and all kinds of strange growths that you don't see on the other smoother caiman. And I tried to release this one without getting bitten, and I threw it into the stream, gently into the water, just went wah, and tried to pull my hands back. And as I pulled my hand back, this caiman in the air turned around and just tried to give me one parting blow and just got one tooth whack right to the bone of my finger. And bone injury feels different than a skin injury. So you instantly, and it just reminds you of, that's a caiman with a head this big, and it hurt. And I know that it could have taken off my finger. Now, if you scale that up to a black caiman, it's rib crushing. It's zebra head removing size. You know, just meat destroying. It's incredible. It's nature's metal, sort of. You know, just raw power.
So what's the biggest croc you've been able to handle?
We were doing caiman surveys for years, and we would go out at night, and you want to figure out what are the populations of black caiman, spectacle caiman, smooth-fronted caiman, dwarf caiman, and the only way to see which caiman you're dealing with is to catch it, because a lot of times you get up close with the light and you can see the eyes at night, but you can't quite see what species it is. For instance, this past few months, we found 2 baby black caiman on the river, which is unprecedented here. We haven't seen that in decades. So it's important that we monitor our croc population. So I started catching small ones. In Mother of God, I write about the first one that me and JJ caught together, which was probably a little bigger than this table. And probably mid-20s bravado and competition with other young males of my species led to me trying to go as big as I could. And I jumped on a spectacle caiman that was slightly longer than I am. And I'm 5'9", so I jumped on this probably 6-foot croc and quickly realized that my hands couldn't get around its neck and my legs were wrapped around the base of its tail, and the thrash was so intense that as it took me one side, I barely had enough time to realize what was happening before it beat me against the ground. My headlamp came off, so now I'm blind, in the dark, laying in a river in the Amazon rainforest, hugging a 6-foot crocodile. And I went, JJ! As I always do. But in that moment, before I even let go, I knew I couldn't let go of the croc, because if I let go of the croc, I thought she was going to destroy my face. So I said, okay, now I'm stuck here. If I just stay here, I can't release her. I need help. But I was like, I'm never, ever, ever, ever going to try and solo catch a croc this big again. I was like, this is, I knew in that moment, I was like, this is good enough.
So anything longer than you, you
No.
don't control the tail. You
No.
you have barely control of anything, really.
Yeah, and that's a spectacle caiman. A black caiman is a whole other order of magnitude. There, it's like saying like, oh, you know, I was play fighting with my golden retriever versus I was play fighting with, like, you know, what's the biggest, scariest dog you could think of? The dog from Sandlot, a giant gorilla dog thing, like a Malamute, something huge. What are they called? Mastiffs.
Yeah,
Mastiffs.
I mean, you mentioned dinosaurs. What do you admire about black caiman? They've been here for a very, very long time. There's something prehistoric about their appearance, about their way of being, about their presence in this jungle.
With crocodiles, you're looking at this mega survivor. They're in a class with sharks where it's like they've been here so long. When you talk about multiple extinctions, you talk about the 6th extinction, Earth's going through all this stuff, the crocodiles and the cockroaches have seen it all before. They're like, man, we remember what that comet looked like. And they're not impressed.
Yeah, they carry this wisdom.
Yeah.
In their power.
Yeah.
In the simplicity of their power, they carry the wisdom.
Yeah. And they're just sitting there in the streams and they don't care. And even if there's a nuclear holocaust, you know that there would just be some crocs sitting there dead-eyed in that stagnant water, waiting for the life to regenerate so they could eat again.
It's going to be the remaining humans versus the crocs and the cockroaches. And the cockroaches are just background noise.
Yeah, they'll always be there. Sons of bitches.
You know, we're talking about individual black caiman and different species of caiman, but whenever they're together and you see multiple eyes, which I got into experience, it's quite a feeling. There's just multiple eyes looking back at you. Of course, for you, that's...
Cách đây khoảng 2 đến 3 năm trở lại đây thì mình tập trung vào cái việc là mình không check xem tiếng nó ok không. Hơi buồn ngủ. Yo yo yo. Lẹ.
They're like, man,
Ok không? Cái việc là mình không hơi nhỏ nhỉ. Làm nào để tiếng to hơn giờ? Làm thế nào để tiếng to hơn à? Cái mic của mình nó ở đây. Property không phải filter mà đúng chứ. Gain. Mình tăng gain lên. Bây giờ to liền. Này. To chưa? Bạn hơi chậm ra. Làm nào để tiếng to hơn giờ? Làm thế nào để tiếng to hơn à? Cái mic của mình nó ở gain. Mình tăng gain lên. Bây giờ to liền. Này. Ok, đỡ hơn rồi. Quay trở lại thì 3 năm, chắc tầm 3 năm trở lại đây mình cố gắng là không đeo tai nghe, mình nghe nữa. Đơn giản là mình muốn nghe tiếng Anh nó khó hơn ấy. Nhưng mà khi mà mình stream này thì mình bắt buộc phải đeo tai nghe, và cái việc mà đeo tai nghe nó khiến mình bị hơi đau đầu, hơi mệt ấy.
It's
1 tiếng 25 phút rồi, còn 1 tiếng nữa. Kiểu mình đang phải gồng lên ấy. Vẫn chưa quen, nhưng mà thôi thì cố gắng nhỉ.
immediate excitement. You immediately go towards that. You want to see it, you want to explore it, maybe catch them, analyze what the species is, all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
Can you just describe that feeling when they're together and they're looking at you? So head above water, eyes reflecting the light.
Yeah. So the other night, Lex and I were in the river with JJ, surviving a thunderstorm. We're in the rain, and we had covered our equipment with our boats, and the only thing that we could do was get in the river to keep ourselves dry. And so we were in the river at night, in the dark, no stars, just a little bit of canopy silhouetted with all this rain coming down. It was such a din, you could hardly hear anything. And all the way downriver, I just see this caiman eye in my headlamp light.
Mm-hmm.
And I started walking towards it because I was like, this is even better. We can catch a caiman while we're in this thunderstorm in the Amazon River. And when JJ went, Paul, it's too far. JJ very rarely, like he'll make a suggestion. Like he'll usually go like, maybe it's far. But in that situation, deep in the wilderness, unknown caiman size, he went, Paul, it's too far. Don't leave the three of us right now.
Yeah.
We're too far out to take risks.
Yeah.
We're too far out to be walking along the riverbed at night, because then, right here at the research station, if you step on a stingray, you get evac'd. Out where we went, nothing. So for me, seeing those eyes, I think I've become so comfortable with so many of these animals that I may have crossed into the territory where I feel so comfortable with many of these animals that they just don't worry me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I looked at you in a raft while you had a sizable, probably about 12-foot black caiman right next to your raft. I watched its head go under.
Bubbles.
The bubbles, it was all coming up right next to your raft as he was just moving along the bottom of the river, because he looked at me, went under, and then my raft passed and yours came over him. So now I'm looking back and your raft is going over this black caiman. And I'm going, I'm not worried at all. I was not worried. I was not worried that the caiman would freak out. I was not worried that he would try to attack you. I knew 100% that caiman just wanted us to go so you could go back to eating fish.
Yeah.
That's it.
Man, it's humbling. It's humbling, these giant creatures, and especially at night, like you were talking about. And for me, it's both scary and just beautiful when the head goes under. Because like underwater, it's their domain, so anything can happen. So what is it doing that its head is going under? It could be bored. It could be hungry, looking for some fish. It could be maybe wanting to come closer to you to investigate. Maybe you have some food around you. Maybe it's an old friend of yours and just wants to say hi. I don't know.
I have a few on the river, old friends. No, when we see their heads go under, it's just, they're just getting out of the way. We're shining a light at them and they're going, why is there a light at night? I'm uncomfortable. Head under. So these caiman, again, you think of it as this big aggressive animal, but I don't know anybody that's been eaten by a black caiman. And the smaller species, smooth-fronted caiman, dwarf caiman, spectacle caiman, they're not going to eat anybody. Again, at the worst, if you were doing something inappropriate with a caiman, like you jumped on it and were trying to do research and it bit your hand, it could take your hand off. But that's the only time. I've been walking down the river and stepped on a caiman, and the caiman just swims away. And so in my mind, caiman are just they're peaceful dragons that sit on the side of the river. And so to me, they are my friends. And I worry about them because 2 months ago we were coming upriver, and on one of the beaches was a beautiful, about 5-foot black caiman with a big machete cut right through the head. The whole caiman was wasted. Nothing was eaten, but the caiman was dead.
What do you think that was?
Curious humans.
Just committing violence?
Yeah, just loggers, people who aren't from this part of the Amazon, because a local person would either eat the animal or not mess with it. Like Pico would never kill a caiman for no reason because it doesn't make any sense. So these are clearly people who aren't from the region, which usually means loggers because they've come from somewhere else. They're doing a job here, and they're just cleaning their pots in the river at night, and they see eyes come near them because the caiman probably smells fish, and then they just whack because they want to see it, and they're just curious monkeys on a beach. And again, me, friend of caiman, I protect from my type.
That said, you protect your friends and you analyze and study your friends, but sometimes friends can have a bit of a misunderstanding. And if you have a bit of a misunderstanding with the black caiman, I feel like just a bit of a misunderstanding could lead to a bone-crushing situation.
But not for a little 5-foot caiman. And I think that's incredibly speciesist of you.
About humans or about caiman?
No,
Hey.
I'm saying, like, all my friends do the same thing. They go, you swim in the Amazon rainforest? You swim in that river? And I go, yes, every day. We, backflips into the river. We've been swimming in the river how many times? With the piranha and the stingray and the candiru and the caiman and the anacondas, all of it in the river with us. And we just do it. And what's that for you? So what allows you to do that, knowing and having researched all the different things that can kill you, which I feel like most of them are in the river. What allows you to just get in there with us?
Well, I think it's something about you where you become like this portal through which it's possible to see nature as not threatening but beautiful. And so in that, you kind of naturally, by hanging out with you, I get to see the beauty of it. There is danger out there, but the danger is part of it. Just like there's a lot of danger in the city, there's danger in life, there's a lot of ways to get hurt emotionally, physically, there's a lot of ways to die in the stupidest of ways. We went on an expedition through the forest, just twisting your ankle, breaking your foot, getting a bite from a thing that gets infected. There's a lot of ways to die and get hurt in the stupidest of ways, in a non-dramatic caiman eating you alive kind of way.
Yeah. It strikes me as unfair because humans we're still in our minds so programmed to worry about that predator. What predator? We've killed everything. Black caimans are coming off the endangered species list. We exterminated wolves from North America. I actually heard a suburban lady one time tell her son, watch out. Foxes will get you. Foxes.
Yeah.
They eat baby rabbits and mice.
Well, in the case of apex predators, I think when people say dangerous animals, they really are talking about just the power of the animal. And the black caiman have a lot of power. And it's almost just a way to celebrate the power of the animal.
Sure. And if it's in celebration, then I'm all for it because my God, is that power. Like the waves of fury that you saw. Like when that tail, I mean, you saw the tail of the spectacle, that perfect, amazing thing with all those interlocking scales that works. So it's like a perfect creation of engineering. And then when you have one that's this thick and all of a sudden that thing is moving with all the acceleration of that power. Wow. The volume of water, the sound that comes out of their throat. They're dragons.
We talked about the scales of the snake with like the caiman, just the way it felt.
Yeah.
Was incredible. Just the armor, the texture of it was so cool.
Yeah.
I don't know, like the bottom one caiman have a certain kind of texture, and it just all feels like power, but also all feels like designed really well. It's like exploring through touch, like a World War II tank or something like that. Just it's the engineering that went into this thing.
Yeah.
That like the mechanism of evolution that created a thing that could survive for such a long time. It's just like incredible. This is a work of art. The defense mechanisms, the power of it, the damage it can do, how effective it is as a hunter, all of that. All you can feel that in just by touching it.
Do you ever see the mashup where they put side by side the image of I think it's a falcon in flight next to a stealth bomber, and they're almost the exact same design. It's incredible. Like that.
What's the equivalent for a croc?
Like you said, maybe a tank. Like,
maybe a
but then
tank.
more like an armadillo turtle. I don't know.
Like hippos. And
Yeah, there may not be a war machine equivalent of a crocodile. It would have to have like a big jaw element to it.
Yeah, in the water. I mean, we talked also about hippos. Those are interesting creatures from all the way across the world. Just monsters.
Yeah.
Hippos and rhinos. Hippos are bigger usually, or rhinos are bigger.
Rhinos. Rhinos is after elephants is the largest. White
Huh?
rhinos.
They can be terrifying too.
Exactly,
Again, when you
Luna.
step into the defense.
Absolutely, but I have to tell you, after being around so many rhinos,
You have friends.
I have rhino friends,
Yeah.
black and white rhinos,
Yep.
and they're all sweethearts. And
Awesome.
I mean sweethearts. And I mean, when you look at a rhino, it's like a living dinosaur. I know it's a mammal, but somehow it screams dinosaur because it seems like Pleistocenic and from another age with the giant horn. And they're so much bigger than you think. Like they're minivan-sized animals. Like we're not taller than they are at their shoulder, and they have this strange-shaped head and the huge horn, and they sit there eating grass all day. So if a rhino is dangerous to a human, it's because the rhino is going, "Don't hurt me.
Yeah.
Don't hurt me. Don't hurt my baby." And then they're like, "You know what? I'll just kill you. It'll be easier because you're scaring me
Yeah.
right now. You're too close to that rhino."
Yeah.
And so, like, there again, I just think it's funny because humans, we're so quickly to go, which snakes are aggressive? Well, there are no aggressive snakes. You know, rhinos can be dangerous if provoked. Otherwise, they're peaceful, fat grass unicorns. You know, like they're really pretty calm. We have these incredible giant animals, and the largest animals on our planet, the black caiman, the rhinos, the elephants, all the big, beautiful stuff is becoming less and less.
Yeah.
And it almost reminds me, like in Game of Thrones, they're like, yeah, in the beginning, they're like, yeah, there used to be dragons. And it was like this memory. And it's like, yeah, we used to have mammoths, and we used to have stellar sea cows that were 16 feet long, manatees. And there were things we used to have, the Caspian tiger that only went extinct in the 90s, our lifetimes. And that's mind-blowing to me. That has haunted me since I'm a child. I remember learning about extinction, and I went, wait, you're telling me that... I remember being a kid and going, by the time I grow up, you're saying that gorillas could be gone, elephants could be gone, and because we're doing it. And then I remember looking at the nightlight being blurry because I was crying. I was so upset. And it was Lonesome George, that turtle, the Galapagos tortoise, where there was one left. And they said, if we just had a female, he could live. And I, as a 6, 7, 8-year-old, that destroyed me.
We're all just trying to get laid, including that turtle.
For a few hundred years. Dude.
So for young people out there, you think you're having trouble, think about that turtle.
Think about that turtle. Yeah. You know, there's a turtle that Darwin and Steve Irwin both owned?
Yeah, I heard about that turtle.
Mm.
Man, they live a long time.
Yeah.
They've seen things.
They've seen things. That there's a great like internet joke where they're like accusing him of like being incongruous with modern times. They're like, he did nothing to stop slavery. He didn't fight in World War II. Like,
Canceled the turtle.
Yeah, canceled the turtle.
Oh, shit. What a world we live in. So it's interesting you mentioned black caiman and anacondas are both apex predators. So it seems like the reason they can exist in similar environments is because they feed on slightly different things. How is it possible for them to coexist? I read that anacondas can eat caiman, but not black caiman. How often do they come in conflict?
So anacondas and caiman occupy the exact same niche.
Mm-hmm.
And they're born at almost the exact same size. And unlike most species, they don't have sort of a size range that they're confined to.
Mm-hmm.
They start at this big. Baby caiman are this big. Baby anacondas are a little longer, but they're thinner and they don't have legs. So it's the same thing in terms of mass. And they're all in the streams or at the edges of lakes or swamps. And so the baby anacondas eat the baby caiman. Baby caiman can't really take down an anaconda. They're going for little insects and fish. They have quite a small mouth. So it's in their interest to hide from everything. A bird, a heron can eat a baby caiman, pop it back. Mm-hmm. And so they have to survive. But the anaconda and the caiman kind of joust as they grow.
Can you actually explain how the anaconda would take down a caiman? Like, would it first use constriction and then eat it? Or what's the methodology?
Yeah, so anacondas have a kind of a 3-point constriction system where their first thing is anchor. Mm-hmm. So like jiu-jitsu. So the first thing is latch on to you.
I like how I'm writing this down. Like, all right,
Yes.
this is jujitsu, like masterclass here.
This is for when you're wrestling an anaconda, just in case.
And you'll be like the coach on the sidelines screaming,
You got
no,
him,
no, no."
Lex.
Yeah.
Don't let him take the back.
Yeah.
All right, so one time me and JJ were following a herd of collared peccary, and JJ's teaching me tracking. So we're following the hoof prints through the mud, and we're doing this, and I'm talking about no backpacks, just machetes, bare feet, running through the jungle. And we come to this stream, and JJ's like, I think we missed them. I think they went. And I'm like, no, they went here. Look. And not because I'm a great tracker, because I can see, a few dozen footprints, hundreds of individual footprints right there. And I'm going, no, they just crossed here. And JJ was like, you know what? We're not going to get eyes on them today. He was like, it's okay. He's like, we did good. We followed him for a long time. And I was like, cool. And then I was trying to gauge, like, can I drink this stream? And I see a culpa. And a culpa is a salt deposit where animals come to feed, because sodium is a deficiency that most herbivores have here. And all of a sudden, I just hear like the sound of a wet stick snapping, just that bone crunch. And I look down, and there's about a 16-foot anaconda wrapped around a freshly killed peccary, wild boar. And what this anaconda had done was, as all the pigs were going across the stream, the anaconda had grabbed it by the jaw, swiped the legs, wrapped around it, bent it in half, and then crushed its ribs. And that's what the anaconda do, whether it's to mammals, to caiman, it's all the same thing. It's grab on. They have 6 rows of backwards facing teeth. So once they hit you, they're never going to come off. You actually have to go deeper in and then open before you can come out. All those backward facing teeth. So they have an incredible anchor system, and then they use their weight to pull you down to hell, to pull you down into that water, wrap around you, and then start breaking you. And every breath you take, you go, and you're up against a barrier. And then when you exhale, they go a little tighter, and you're never going to get that space back. Your lungs are never going to expand again. And I know this because I've been in that crush before JJ pulled me out of it. And so this pig, the anaconda had gotten it, and as the pig was thrashing and the anaconda was wrapping around, it had bent it in half. And I just heard those vertebrae going.
Yeah.
And so for a caiman, it's the same thing. They just grab and they wrap around it, and then they have to crush it until there's no response. They'll wait an hour. They'll wait a long time until there's no response from the animal. They'll overpower it. Then they'll reposition, probably yawn a little bit, open their jaw, and then start forcing that entire. Now, here's the crazy thing, is that an anaconda has stomach acid capable of digesting an entire crocodile where nothing comes out the other side. And when you see how thick the bony plate of a crocodile's skull is, that can go in the mouth and nothing comes out the other side. That's insane. And so it always made me wonder, on a chemistry level, how you can have such incredible acid in the stomach that doesn't harm the anaconda itself. And someone said
but
that
it's able to
mucus,
digest. Oh, it's some kind of mucus.
like
the mucus.
There's
Interesting. There's levels of protection from the anaconda itself, but it seems like the anaconda is such a simple system as an organism.
I know,
Like that simplicity taken at scale, it could just can swallow a caiman and digest it slowly.
I know, but my question was how on earth is it physically possible to have this hellish bile that can digest anything, even something as horrendous as a caiman, scales and bones and all the hardest shit in nature, and then not hurt the snake itself? And I had a chemist explain to me that it's probably some sort of mucus system that lines the stomach and neutralizes the acid and keeps it floating in there. But my God, that must be powerful stuff.
So what does it feel like being crushed, choked by an anaconda?
When an anaconda is wrapped around you, and you find yourself in the shocking realization that these could be your last moments breathing, you are confronted with the vast disparity in power, that there is so much power in these animals, so much crushing, deliberate, reptilian, ancient power that doesn't care. They're just trying to get you to stop. They just want you to stop ticking, and there's nothing you can do. And I find it very awe-inspiring when I encounter that kind of power. When even if it's that you see a dog run, you ever try to outrun a dog and they just zip by you and you go, wow, or you see a horse kick and you go, oh my God, if that hoof hit anyone's head, it'd knock them 3 states over. And it's like there is muscular power that is so far, that, like you said, that explosive, that we dream of doing it. Like, imagine if like a Muay Thai kickboxer could harness that sort of caiman power, that smash. And so it's just awe-inspiring. I think it's really, really impressive what animals can do. And we're all, we're all the same sort of makeup for the most part. All the mammals, we all have our skeletons look so similar. We all have if you look at like a kangaroo's biceps and chest, it looks so much like a man's. And if same thing goes for a bear, or you ever see a naked chimp? There's chimps with alopecia.
Oh shit!
And so
they're shredded.
It looks like a bodybuilder. Like it's got cuts and huge everything. Like it's got pecs, and they got that face that's just like, just let me in.
What now?
Yeah. Where's your wallet?
Do something. But there's the specialization of a lifetime of doing damage to the world and using those muscles. It just makes you just that much more powerful than most humans, because humans, I guess, have more brain. So they get lazy. They start puzzle solving versus, using the biceps directly.
Well, yes and no. And I have this question. Okay. So that whole you are what you eat thing. Now, we one time here had 2 chickens. Now, one of them was a wild chicken, like from the farm, had walked around its whole life finding insects. And the other chicken was like factory raised. And so we cut the heads off of both of them and started getting ready to cook them. Now, the factory raised chicken was like a much higher percentage of fat, had less muscle on its body, was softer tissue, a lighter color. The farm-raised chicken had darker, more sinewy muscles, less fat, was clearly a better made machine. And so my question is that what's happening with us? Like if you go see a Sherpa who's been walking his whole life and pulling, and walking behind musk oxes and lifting things up mountains and breathing clean air and not being in the city, versus someone that's just been chowing down at IHOP for 40 years and never getting off the couch. Like, I imagine it's the same thing, that you become what you eat.
Yeah, I mean, like you and I were like half dead running up a mountain. Meanwhile, there's a grandma just like walking, and she's been walking that road, and she's just built different.
With her alpaca on her shoulders.
With a baby. And she just they're just built different when you apply your body in a physical way your whole life.
Yeah. Like you can't replicate that. Like just like that chimp has those from constantly moving through the canopy, constantly using those arms. Just like if you if you see an Olympic athlete or you hug Rogan,
exactly.
You just go, what? Why is there so much muscle here?
That's exactly what I feel like when you give him a hug. This is definitely a chimp of some sort. How does that just that the constriction of the anaconda, just the feeling of that? Are they doing that based on instinct, or is there some brain stuff going on? Like, is this just like a basic procedure that they're doing, and they just really don't give a damn? They're not like thinking, oh, Paul, this is this kind of species, he would taste good, or is it just a mechanism to just start activating and you can't stop it?
With an anaconda, I really think it's the second one.
Yeah.
I do think that they're impressive and beautiful and incredibly arcane. I think they're a very simple system, a very ancient system. And I think that once you hit predation mode, it's going down no matter what. This stupid mosquito, I'm going like this, and every time he just flies around my hand, like I'm a big slow giant, and he just goes around my hand, and then he goes back to the same spot, and I'm like, no, and then he comes right back to the same spot. It's like he's just going, fuck you.
Now, here's the question. If the mosquito is stupid and you can't catch it, what does that make you?
Fucking stupid. Dude, I flicked a wasp off me the other day. It flew back like 12 feet and in the air, corrected, and then flew back at my face.
Yeah.
It made so many calculations and corrections and decided to come back and let me know about it. And it was like, shit.
And the wasp probably went back to the nest, said, guess what happened today?
This bitch-ass kid from Brooklyn tried to flick me, and I showed him what's up. I had him running.
Yeah, you had a good chuckle on that one. You actually mentioned to me, just on the topic of anacondas, that you've been participating in a lot of scientific work on the topic. So, like, really, in everything you've been doing here, you are celebrating the animals, you're respecting the animals, you're protecting the animals, but you're also excited about studying the animals and their environment. So you're actually a co-author on a paper, on a couple of papers, but one of them is on anacondas and studying green anaconda hunting patterns. What's that about?
So the lead authors of that paper, Pat Champagne and Carter Payne, friends of mine, and what we started noticing for me began at that story I told you, where we were coming across the stream and we saw the anaconda had been positioned just below a culpa. And then other people began noticing that anacondas seemed to always be beneath these colpas where mammals were going to be coming. And that contrasted with what we knew about anacondas. Because what we understood about anacondas is that they're purely ambush predators and they don't pursue their prey. But what we began finding out here, and Pat led the process of amazing scientists. He worked with Acadia University for a long time, worked with us for a long time. And he was one of the first to put a transmitter in an anaconda right around here, and we were able to see their movements. And that's what these papers are showing, is that they actually do pursue their prey. They do move up and down using the streams as corridors through the forest. They actually do pursue their prey. They actually do seek out food. So, I mean, think about it. It's a giant anaconda. Obviously, it can't just sit in one spot. It has to put some work into it. And so they're using scent and they're using communication to use the streams. So you could be walking in the forest in a very shallow stream and see a sizable anaconda looking for a meal.
So in the shallow stream, it moves not just in the water, but in the sand.
Yeah.
So it also likes to burrow a little bit.
They burrow quite a bit. And so these large snakes operate subterranean more than we think.
Interesting.
Like there's times that you'll go with a tracker, you go with a telemetry set, and it'll say, like we'll be over the snake. The snake's underground. Snake has found either a recess under the sides of the stream. You saw it last night, where all the fish have their holes under the side of the stream. There was a 6-foot dwarf came in right in the stream, right where we were standing. And he had his cave. He goes under there. They know. They have their system.
Yeah, we walked by it.
We walked by it. And he stuck his head out because he thought we'd gone. And then we turned around, and I just got a glimpse of him because I was in the front of the line. And he just went right back into his cave. You guys are not going to touch me. And so, yeah, with the anacondas, it's been really exciting. And in 2014, JJ and me and Mosin and Pat and Lee, we ended up catching what at the time was the record for Eunectes marinus scientifically measured. It was 18 feet 6 inches, 220 pounds, one of the largest female anacondas on record. And since that time, these guys have been continuing to study the species, continuing to just add a little bit by little bit to the knowledge we have of the species, and studying green anacondas in lowland tropical rainforest. You've seen how hard it is to move, to operate, to navigate in this environment. And so when you think of the fact that in order to learn anything about this species, you have to spend vast amounts of time first locating them and then finding out a way to keep tabs on them. Because even if you get lucky enough to see an anaconda by the edge of a stream, to be able to observe it over time, to learn its habits, or to put a radio transmitter on it, or to take any sort of valuable information from the experience is almost impossible. And so a lot of the stuff that I wrote about in Mother of God, us jumping on anacondas and trying to catch them, and at first it just seemed like something we were doing to learn to just try and see them, but it ended up being that we were wildly trying to figure out methodology that would have scientific implications later on, because now it's allowing us to try and find the largest anacondas. And people used to say there's no way there's 25 foot, 27 foot. Well, there's just that video of the guy swimming with the 20-foot anaconda. And so now as we keep going, I'm going, well, maybe through drone identification, we could find where the largest anacondas are sitting on top of floating vegetation. And even then, how do we restrain them so that we could measure them and prove this to the world? It's sort of a side quest, but...
So by doing these kinds of studies, you figure out how they move about the world, what motivates them in terms of when they hunt, where they hide in the world, as the size of the anaconda changes. So all of that, those are scientific studies.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's so much that we don't know about this forest. We don't know what medicines are in this forest. We don't know, with a lot of the 1,500, there's something like 4,000 species of butterflies in the Amazon rainforest. And of the 1,500 species that are here in this region, all of them have a larval stage, caterpillars, right? And each of the caterpillars has a specific host plant that they need to eat in order to become a successful butterfly, to enter the next life cycle. And for most of the species that fill the butterfly book, we don't know what those interactions are. I recently got to see the white witch, which is a huge moth. It's one of the 2 largest moths in the world. It's the largest moth by wingspan.
Wow.
Huge. It looks like a bird. Big white moth. We still, I believe that we still don't know what the caterpillar looks like. It's 2024. We have iPhones and penis-shaped rocket ships. We don't know where that moth starts its life.
Yeah.
We still haven't figured that out.
By the way, the rocket ships are shaped that way for efficiency purposes, not because they wanted to make it look like a penis. Speaking of which, I've ran across a lot of penis trees while exploring.
Have you?
And make me I know it's not just a figment of my imagination. I'm pretty sure they're real. In fact, you explained it to me, and they make me very uncomfortable because there's just a lot of penises hanging off of a tree.
Yes.
I don't know what the purpose is. I don't know who they're supposed to attract. It certainly makes, but certainly Paul really enjoys them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, clearly you've done some research and you've noticed a lot of them. I haven't even seen them.
There was a time where I almost fell, and to catch my balance, I had to grab one of the penises of the penis tree. And unforgettable. Anaconda, the biggest, baddest anaconda in the Amazon versus the biggest, baddest black caiman. Because you mentioned there's a race. If there's a fight, this is UFC in cage. Who wins underwater?
The biggest and the baddest.
The biggest and the baddest. That you can imagine, given all the studies you've done of the two animals. Species.
The baddest. So you're talking about an 18-foot, several 100-pound black caiman versus a 26-foot, 350-pound anaconda.
Yeah,
anaconda.
I think it's a death stalemate. I think the caiman slams the anaconda, bites onto it. The anaconda wraps the caiman, and then they both thrash around until they both kill each other. Because I think the caiman will tear him up so bad.
And the caiman's not going to let go. He's just going to
Caiman's never going to let go, but then he's gonna realize that he's also being constricted. So then he's going to stop, and he's gonna keep slamming down on that anaconda, and the anaconda's just going to keep constricting. But if the caiman can do enough damage before the it's almost like a striker versus a jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know, if you can get enough elbows in before they lock you.
How fast is the constriction? So it's pretty slow.
It's incredibly quick. So it's you take the back and get me in a chokehold.
Yeah.
It's that. I have maybe 30 seconds, maybe on the upward side if you haven't cinched it under my throat. But if you've gotten good position, it's over.
Is there any way to unwrap the choke, undo the choke,
No.
defending?
Not unless you have outside help. Unless you have another human or another 10 humans coming to unwrap the tail and help you. But for an animal, like if a deer gets hit by an anaconda, no way. They don't stand a chance.
So the black caiman would bite somewhere close to the head, and then just try to hold on and thrash.
Yeah, I don't think a large black caiman. Here's the thing. Every fisherman knows this. Like the biggest fish, they're smart.
Yeah. And
more importantly, they're shrewd. They're careful. A huge black caiman that's 16 feet long isn't going to be messing with a big anaconda. Like they won't cross paths because while they technically occupy the same type of environment, that black caiman's going to have this deep spot in a lake, and that anaconda is going to have found this floating forest, like sort of black stream backwater where it's going to be, and they'll have made that their home for decades, and they'll already have cleaned out the competition. So maybe if there was a flood and they got pushed together, they could have some sort of a showdown. But almost more certainly is that when they get to that, they could have some sort of a showdown.
Cuộc thách đấu à? Showdown. Cuộc thách đấu. Oh.
But almost more certainly is that when they get to that size, that caiman at any sign of danger, bloom, right under the water. Just it's almost like even if what do you learn when you're a black belt? You know, what do you do with a street fight? You still run away. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for a street fight. And I think the animals really understand that. There's no reason for this.
So like a giant anaconda and a giant black caiman, they could probably even coexist in the same environment, just using the wisdom to avoid the fight. Like why?
Yeah. Or they would have a big showdown and one of them would either die or have to leave. They would have a territorial dispute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without killing either of them.
Yeah. On it, dude. Nature. Anything could happen. One of the things that me and Pat wrote up was that I saw a yellow-tailed creepo, which is like a 6-foot rat snake, eating an Oxyropus melanogenes, which is the red snake that we found last night. And just no one had ever, in scientific literature, we'd never seen a creepo eating an Oxyropus before. And so I had the observation in the field. I sent it to Pat Champagne. Pat writes it up. Paper. And so it's this really cool, that's a really cool system because we're just out here all the time. You end up seeing things. JJ's dad saw an anaconda eating a tapir. Tapir is the size of a cow. Damn. And that guy didn't lie. You know, some people, you trust your sources on that. He saw enough stuff. He didn't need to make up stories. Mm-hmm. And you know what I love now is when you ask people, when we were going up the mountain with Jimmy.
Yeah.
JJ said to him, he goes, "Have you ever seen a puma up here in the mountains?" Mm-hmm. And Jimmy goes, "They're up here." And JJ went, no, have you seen it? And Jimmy went, no, never seen one. And you know how most people will go, yeah, I've seen it. That makes me trust a person when they admit, nah, I haven't seen it.
They're up here. I haven't seen it. And Jimmy's been living there his whole life. There's pumas in the mountains?
You know, mountain lions, pumas, whatever there's all different names for them. They're distributed from Alaska down through Argentina. They're everywhere. It's an extremely successful species. Mm-hmm. from deserts to high mountains, everything.
I think you're saying pumas have a curiosity, have a way about them where they like explore, like follow
Yeah.
people, like just to kind of figure out like just that curiosity versus like as opposed to causing harm or hunting and that kind of stuff. Like, what is this about?
I think it's based in predatory instincts, but I also think there is a playfulness to higher intelligence animals that you don't see in lower intelligence animals. And so something like a rabbit, for instance, you're never going to see a rabbit come in to check you out.
Yeah.
You can't even think of it like that. Like a rabbit's just going to either eat or run away. There's really two settings.
Mhm.
When you think of something like a giant river otter or a tyra, which is they call it manco here. It's a huge arboreal weasel, and they'll come check you out. I woke up at my house the other day, and there was a tyra climbing up the side of the house, and he was looking down at me sleeping.
Mm.
And it's like, he came to check me out. Like, it's like they're smart enough and they're brave enough. Here's the important thing. They know that they can fend for themselves. They can fight, they can climb, they can run. And so they're like, I'm curious. I got time. Let me check this out.
Yeah, they're gathering
Yeah, Tom.
information. I wonder how complex and sophisticated their world model is. Like how they're integrating all the information about the environment, like where all the different trees are, where all the different nests of the different insects are, what the different creatures are, by size, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure they don't have enough, storage up there to like keep all of that, but they probably keep the important stuff. So sort of integrate the experiences they have into like what is dangerous, what is tasty, all that kind of stuff.
I think it's more complex than we realize. You go back to that Friends to Wall book, Are We Smart Enough to Know How Smart Animals Are? There's so many incredible examples of controlled studies where researchers weren't understanding how to shed being so insurmountably human and understand that there are other types of intelligence. And whether that's elephants or cats. So big cats, for instance, we just saw a camera trap video from last night where you see one of our workers walk down the trail and then 5 minutes later, a cat behind him.
By the way, we're walking just exactly the same area, also exact same time. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're out there and there's deer and there's cats and there's a jaguar and there's a puma and there's all these animals out there.
Yeah.
And we're out in the night, in the inky black night, in this ocean of darkness beneath the trees, and we're just exploring and getting to see everything. And there's all these little eyes and heartbeats. I love the jungle at night, man. It's the most exciting thing.
Yeah, one of the things you do when you turn off the headlamp, complete darkness all around you. And just the sounds.
Everything you hear, the cicadas, the birds, they're all screaming about sex.
Yeah.
All the time. So they're just trying to get laid.
Yeah.
So all of them are making mating calls. Now, the trick is to make your mating call without attracting a predator.
Yeah.
But at night, what amazes me is that for us, it's so from the caveman logic of it's hard to make fire here, it's hard to even light a fire here, to having this incredible beam of all of a sudden we can look at the jungle and walk through that darkness. Then we're seeing the frogs on those leaves and the snakes moving through the undergrowth and the deer sneaking through the shadows. It's like it's almost as supernatural as skydiving. It's a strange thing to be able to do that technology allows us to do. We're doing something really complex, and we're walking on trails that have been cleared for us, that we've planned out. And so walking through the jungle at night, you just get this freak show of biodiversity, and I'm addicted to it. I truly love it.
Except for the times over the last few days when we walked through jungle without a trail.
Yeah,
and that's just different. A different experience.
How would you categorize if somebody said, Lex, I think I'm going to go for a hike through the jungle, not on the trail?
Yeah.
What would you tell them?
Every step is really hard work. Every step is a puzzle. Every step is full of possibility of hurting yourself in a multitude of ways. You just a wasp nest under a leaf, a hole under a leaf on the ground where if you step in it, you're going to break a knee, ankle, leg, and going to not be able to move for a long time. There's all kinds of ants that can hurt you a little or can hurt you a lot. Bullet ants. There's snakes and spiders. And, my favorite that I've gotten to know intimately is different plants with different defensive mechanisms, one of which is just spikes. So sharp. You have, I don't know if you brought it, but there's...
I didn't bring it. Where's my club?
There's an epic club with the spikes, but there's so many trees that have spikes on them. Sometimes they're obvious spikes, sometimes less than obvious spikes. And, it could be just an innocent as you take a step through a dense jungle, it could be an innocent placing of a hand on that tree that could just completely transform your experience, your life, by penetrating your hand with like 20, 30, 40, 50 spikes.
Yeah.
And just changing everything. That's just a completely different experience than going on a trail where you're observer of the jungle versus the participant of it. And and it truly is extreme hard work to take every single step.
Now, just think about this. I think scientifically, because people like to summarize, people like to get really, really sort of cavalier with our scientific progress. And they go, we've already explored the Amazon. It's like, well, have we? Because in between each tributary is, let's say just between some of them, let's just say 100 miles of unbroken forest. Who's explored that?
Yeah.
Maybe some of the tribes have been there. Maybe. Some areas they haven't been. Now, when you're talking about scientists, whether they're indigenous scientists, Western scientists, whatever, so many of the areas in this jungle that is the size of the continental US still have not been accessed. And the places where people are doing research, see, I've been down here long enough. I see all the PhDs come down here and they all go to the same few research stations. They're safe. They have a bed. If you get hella dropped into the middle of the jungle in the deepest, most remote parts, you're going to find micro ecosystems. You're going to see little species variations. You're going to see a type of flower that JJ's never seen before, like what happened the other day. As you start walking through new patches of forest, you start finding new species, and everything here changes. You just go a little bit upriver, and the animals you see differ. You go on this side of the river versus on the north side of the river, there's two other species of primates there that don't exist here, and that's in the mammal paper that we did with the emperor tamarins and the pygmy marmosets that the rangers found.
Yeah, the mammal paper is looking at the diversity of life in this one region of the Amazon. What kind of can you talk more about that paper? Mammal diversity along the
Ban đầu mình định xem 1 tiếng rưỡi, nhưng mà mình nghĩ là nên mình sẽ dừng ở đây thôi. Như nào nhỉ? Thứ nhất là nó rất là thú vị, nó khá là thú vị, đúng như những gì mà mình kỳ vọng. Chỉ là như nào nhỉ? Một cái lượng kiến thức, không phải một lượng kiến thức mà một lượng thông tin nó khá là nhiều. Nên là mình nghĩ là cứ nhẹ nhàng thôi. Còn tuần này rồi tuần sau thì còn 3 tiếng nữa, gần 3 tiếng nữa thì chắc chắn là trong tuần sau mình sẽ xong. Tuần sau mỗi ngày mình sẽ ra 1 tiếng, là tròn 4 tiếng. Mình thấy mình hơi bị ép, nhưng mà khởi đầu mà thì cứ ép đã, đúng như cái cách mà mình hay làm. Rồi sau rồi đấy dần dần nó sẽ phát triển, để xem nó sẽ phát triển theo như nào, hướng nào. Rồi, hôm nay reply đến đây thôi. Bây giờ đã được 1 tiếng 14 phút. Ok, không quá tệ. Mình không hiểu 1 tiếng 14 phút. Đáng nghĩa là mình phải được 1 tiếng 2-3 phút thôi, nhưng mà không hiểu tại sao này lại 1 tiếng 14 phút rồi. Rồi, hẹn gặp lại ở buổi sau để xem tiếp cái clip này của, chính xác là podcast này của Fridman. Ok, bye bye. Hôm nay là ngày 24. Hẹn gặp lại vào thứ 2 tuần sau, 27. Bye bye.